In this video, we're going to look at how to read data from a text file. But before we write our reading algorithm, we have a problem. We actually need a file to read. If we try to open a file that doesn't exist, it will instantly crash. For example, if we try to read a file equals open, let's do a band passwords.txt, and we're going to use the code R to read from it. Run it, it's going to say file not found. It's an error. So what we're going to do is create a dummy file. So I've made one already. I'm just going to paste it in. Now we've got a file there. We don't need this code anymore. The file's there for us to read. So now we safely got a file to use. We're going to read from that file. So in the exam, they may give you code that says file already exists and you just need to read from it. So we're going to now try to open this file. File equals open. And we need to give a name for the file, band password. You've got the file name right there. We need to make sure it matches. .txt. And we're going to put the code as R to read from it. So Control Enter to test. It's telling us that we need to close the file if we ever open a file. So I'm just going to put files.close here so we don't forget later on. Now that message is gone. So it successfully opens the file and is ready to be read. So if we don't put the close in, the editor tells us, oh, remember to close the file. I know it looks it's red and it looks like it's an error, but it's just a warning telling you you should close the file. And we put the close file in, the error disappears. So now that a file exists and we've opened it successfully, Python has a very useful shortcut to read every line in a file. So if we do for line in file, so every line in the file, print line. Let's try that out. And there we go. You can see there's big gaps in between because hidden in the files, there's always some empty spaces, gaps telling there's a new line. What we can do is use a built-in command called .strip, which removes these empty spaces. Now we've got a clean, we read every file, every line in the file, and what that does, it prints out then it prints out each one on a new line without any random gaps. When you press enter, the new line in a text file, it usually in these ones it records a hidden new line, so the strip gets rid of any new line gaps. So that is a very simple Python read from a file. We read every line in the code and we printed it out. Very simple. So let's go to our OCR reference language editor. Do the same thing again. Let's create a dummy file to read from. So we've got a dummy file here. We can delete this content. And then now let's read from that file. So let's try to open a file. My file equals open, and the same file name underneath .txt. Remember, in OCR reference language, we don't need any code. Read, write, it just because we're opening it, it will open it up for exactly what we want to do. What happens if we file doesn't exist? It gives an error. You need to create it first before you can open it, but if the file does exist, it should be fine. And again, it tells us we should close our file, which I'm going to do now just in case. Same as Python, close, open bracket, close bracket. And now the error is gone and the file has successfully been opened. And okay, so in OCR reference language, we need to do while not my file dot end of file. Current, we're going to make a variable called current line. My file dot read line, capital L there, and then I'm going to print out whatever's in that variable. With OCR reference language, we need to always end with end of while. And then exact same thing. Now we've read it, we open it up successfully, no errors. We have to close it, like always, close the files to save it and to make sure the editor knows it's finished. We did a while loop, not my file end of file. That's a command, end of file. Then we create a new variable and we read each line one by one and print out that variable, and we'll exit straight away when that file hits the end. So you must use a while loop and you must use the special command end of file, and we use the not end of file. Notice though, we don't need to use the dot strip in OCR reference language because in the OCR reference language, the read line automatically removes the blank spaces, and it's just a lot easier and a lot more easier to read files without having to use the strip because it removes the blanks for us already. In Python, make sure to use the dot strip if you need to ever read the file when you're practically, but in your exam you don't really need to do that because there's no output. Running it, if you're ever doing it in future, practicing it in a Python editor, use the dot strip. And in OCR reference language, there's no need to do that, but you need to remember to use end of file to make sure the file has not come to the end, so we loop right through the end of the file. So that's the basic reading from a file.